Charlie Chaplin became a king of comedy even though he had to overcome many struggles. He went from living in an orphanage, performing as a kid on the streets for a few pennies and stealing food to survive, to becoming one of the most iconic stars that were ever born. The trousers too baggy, the coat too tight, a hat too small and shoes too big. Oh, and that mustache. The tramp character, they called him. And what a character he was. He wasn't a man, he was a contradiction. From the way he dressed up to the way he used suffering as a way of comedy. Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin was a millionaire. And why wouldn't he be? The amount of work he did, the quality he produced, he deserved nothing less. But the fame, the money, it all came later. First, Charlie had to win over life before he could win over the audience. Greater than. There have been many great actors over the ages, but his is a legacy that has been passed on for generations. The tramp is a character that will live on forever. You see people on the streets pretending to be him, you see them at children's birthday parties, you see them on stage, you see them in movies. The same get-up, but different men. He was the first comedian. He's not just another name in the history of acting, he is the history of acting. His movies and accolades are well known, but his struggles aren't. So here is the untold story of Charlie Chaplin. Greater than. Charlie's father played a very insignificant role as his life. The man had a better relationship with alcohol. His mother was also a theater performer and a stand-up comic in her own right. She would often put on small shows for her son to make him laugh. Money was extremely hard to come by, but laughter was not a rarity in the Chaplin household. He looked up to his mother. She was his inspiration. She was the reason he became a comedian. In fact, it all started because of her. Laryngitis had caused her voice to crack on stage one day. Charlie was only 5 at the time and sitting in the front. As his mother left the stage prematurely, he took her instead. A young boy who, in his first impromptu performance, had the audience on its feet and his mother full of pride. Greater than. But poverty was hovering over the family. His mother would one day collapse. A nervous breakdown that dried up the finances. He and his half-brother Sidney went to the streets and danced. Small kids collecting pennies in a hat to keep the house going. But soon, it all fell apart. He was only 7 when he and Sidney were sent to a boarding school for orphans. The family had to shift to a workhouse. Workhouses provided accommodation and work for those who had neither. But it was a very depressing state of affairs. The Chaplins were rarely a family again. When Charlie and Sidney returned from boarding school one time, their mother Hannah was standing in her old clothes, waiting at the gate. a desperate attempt to make them feel like a family again. They went to the park that day, like a family. But that was the last time. Hannah had to readmit her family to the workhouse. The boys were sent to another school for destitute children. It only contributed to Charlie's loneliness. Greater than. Charlie Chaplin became a king of comedy even though he had to overcome many struggles. He went from living in an orphanage, performing as a kid on the streets for a few pennies and stealing food to survive, to becoming one of the most iconic stars that were ever born. He managed to conquer the world with a smile and inspire millions of people with his story. Nothing is permanent in this wicked world, not even our troubles. Charlie Chaplin. The best thing in life is to go ahead with all your plans and your dreams, to embrace life and to live every day with passion, to lose and still keep the faith, and to win while being grateful. All of this because the world belongs to those who dare to go after what they want. And because life is really too short to be insignificant. Charlie Chaplin.